Hi, this is Carla Thomas with Quad-Rants for Change. Today's video is going to focus on Michael Cohen's testimony on February 27, 2019. Oh boy, so much juicy bits to bite into. Now, I don't really care about the payoff. I mean, I care if it's going to get Trump impeached, but the pieces of the testimony today that drove me the most batty was Mr. Meadows and his attempt to use a black woman, Lynn Patton, as a prop. A prop that would prove if one black lady likes Trump and thinks he's not racist, well, however can he be racist? What was Mr. Meadows thinking?
You made some very demeaning comments about the president that Ms. Patton doesn't agree with. In fact, it has to do with your claim of racism. She says that as a daughter of a man born in Birmingham, Alabama, that there is no way that she would work for an individual who was racist. How do you reconcile the two of those?
She didn't even get a chance to speak for herself. Mr. Meadows went on about how she's the daughter of a gentleman who was born in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, right there alone, there's some sort of stamp, right? That if you were born of a person in Birmingham, that you have the royal ability to say what's racist and what's not, and who's racist and who's not. People. Because you have a black friend, one black friend, okay, two, Ben Carson. I mean, technically, we revoked his card, but that's a different story. That tell you something is not racist? No, it's not going to fly with the best of the black community. So Representative Tlaib decided at the very end of the hearings that she was not going to allow these missteps by Representative Meadows to go unchecked.
It's the fact that someone would actually use a prop, a black woman, in this chamber, in this committee, is alone racist in itself.
And so what did Mr. Meadows do? How did this white fragility come out? Well, the first thing you have to realize that Mr. Meadows is not only white, but he is male. So then there was some mansplaining and some white-splaining that took place in this, where he attempted to say that he was pretty sure that Ms. Tlaib didn't really mean to call him racist. Because after all, his best friend is the chairman, who, by the way, is also black. Watch.
Chairman, I ask that her words, when she's referring to an individual member of this body, be taken down and stricken from the record. I'm sure she didn't intend to do this, but if anyone knows my record as it relates, it should be you, Mr. Chairman.
But then it gets better, because we have then the mansplainer, the white mansplainer, with the black friend with the gavel, who then tries to use his chairman authorities to say, okay, quiet down, let me kind of carry on and try to figure out what's going and work this out. And Mr. Meadows keeps talking. So his black friend had to be like, whoa, hold up, let me do my job. It's great.
Chairman, I would like to...
Hold on.
I want the words read back.
No.
We want to know exactly what she said about a colleague.
Excuse me. Would you like to rephrase that statement, Ms. Tlaib?
But then the chairman decides that he's got some mansplaining to do too, because the little lady must have been confused. So he asked her if she wanted to rephrase her statement, because, you know, sometimes little ladies trip up. But Ms. Tlaib was having none of it. She's like, I can reread what I just said. And that's what she proceeded to do, because she wanted them to know that she didn't make a mistake. That's what she meant to communicate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can actually read it from here. Just to make a note, Mr. Chairman, that just because someone has a person of color, a black person working for them, does not mean they are racist. And it is insensitive that someone would even say racist, say it is racist in itself, and to use a black woman as a prop to prove it otherwise. And I can submit this for the record. If a colleague is thinking that that's what I'm saying, I'm just saying that's what I believe to have happened. And if, as a person of color in this committee, that's how I felt at that moment, and I wanted to express that.
So Representative Tlaib then reread her statement with a lovely reminder that you can be racist and still have a black friend. and that his attempt in itself was bullshit on top of being racist. And then she said, well, you could interpret that as you wish, but those are my feelings as a person of color. And right there is a key piece. When white people try to say that something that was done was not racist, I have to sit back and remind you that as a white person, you don't get a vote in what's racist. I know that's so hard to hear because, as white people, you're in charge of everything. But when it comes to racism, the group of people who are being oppressed are the ones who get an opinion. So, Ms. Tlaib plainly put that as a person of color in the room, that's how that incident went down for her. Now, as if Mr. Meadows had not made enough faux pas, Mr. Meadows decided to let everyone in the room know that it was not possible for him to be racist. He has nieces and nephews who are of color. So there. He couldn't possibly be racist.
There's nothing more personal to me than my relationship. My nieces and nephews are people of color.
And furthermore, the fact that Ms. Tlaib was say that he brought Ms. Patton in as a prop was in itself racist. It was reverse racism.
To indicate that I asked someone who is a personal friend of the Trump family, who has worked for him, who knows this particular individual, that she's coming in to be a prop, it's racist to suggest that I asked her to come in here for that reason.
So reverse racism can't exist because racism is defined as prejudice plus power. Without the power, aka people of color, there can be no racism. Now, let's talk about prejudice. He got called to the carpet for doing some racist ass shit. And suddenly, the only thing he can defend himself is that you are prejudiced against me. Not buying it, buddy. Then, Mr. Meadows was so flustered, he decided to make things a tad bit worse, because, we haven't hit ground bottom yet. He stuttered, and then referred to Miss Patton as the president's own person. Are we back to owning black people? Is that where we're at? Are we defending a racist claim by saying that she was the president's own personal black person? Just checking.
Mr. President, the president's own person. She's a family member. She loves this family. She came in because she felt like the president of the United States was getting falsely accused. And Mr. Chairman, you and I have a personal relationship that's not based on color.
So on top of racism, to prove non-racism, on top of the white fragility, complete with tears, on top of the accusations of reverse racism, we had to throw in a sprinkle of color blindness. Because, their bro love knows no color. People, color blindness is just another form of racism. Pause it here, look it up, but to ignore and to pretend that your friends of color are just like you is to ignore the different path that a black man walks in this world, especially as his friend is freaking 70-something years old, probably. I don't know, black don't crack, maybe he's 90 for all I know. But the world that man walked 50 years ago, 60 years ago in this country was a whole hell of a lot different than Mr. Meadows. And to say that their friendship knows no bounds and he doesn't see any color in their friendship is to ignore the reality of what it took for Mr. Cummings to rise to where he is and the hardships that made his life different than Mr. Meadows. But anyway, carrying on. So then it was in Mr. Cummings' lap. And he had to choose between the brohood and his race as a black man. And he tried to walk this fine line. He reminded us that he was black. His parents were sharecroppers, basically slaves, he said. And he even insinuated that he once called Mr. Meadows his best friend racist and got in trouble for it. I'd love to know more about that one. Then he tried to rephrase Ms. Tlaib's words again because, sexism is its own beast. And he claimed that, she really didn't call him racist.
I listened very carefully to Ms. Tlaib, And I think, and I don't want to, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but I think she said that she was not calling you a racist.
Look, we can mince words all day long, but his actions were racist, and she repeated that his actions were racist. Then he put it out to Ms. Tlaib again to see if she wanted to refine her message one more time. At which point, Ms. Tlaib kind of was like, look, if it'll move things along to be like, I didn't call you racist, let's say that. Let's just say I didn't call you. I said one might be. It was kind of cheeky and funny. I love her. I really do.
I yield to you. We can just straighten this up.
Chairman, and to my colleague, Mr. Meadows, that was not my intention, and I do apologize if that's what it sounded like, but I said someone in general.
I personally think Ms. Tlaib went a little too far to try to unruffle the pain that Mr. Meadows was feeling. But buddy, when you pull a racist act, your pain is your guilt. We ain't trying to hold that for you. So today was an excellent example of white fragility. From the foot in mouth, and should I say prop on stage action, to the tears, to the, me racist, but I have black friends. I have black family. To the, okay, please don't say I'm racist. To the, but my best friend is black. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. If you have not read the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, you needs to get a copy. Because this shit happens all day long to people of color. And we're tired of it. You need to just own your racist shit when you do it. Apologize, and not one of those, I'm sorry you were offended by my racist shit. A total apology. And move on, move on. Promise to do better. And move on. That's it for this episode of Quad-Rants for Change. Don't be a racist asshole. That's all.